Since Thursday afternoon.
Before the police found her body, her parents were holding on to hopes that she might still be alive.
I'd say if someone has taken Millie and is holding her, then please, please give her back to us.
Why is that, you might ask? Well, because according to phone records, Millie had checked and deleted her voicemail.
We were sitting downstairs in reception and I rang her phone.
Yes.
And it clicked through onto her voicemail, so I heard her voice.
Yes.
And I was, it was just like a jump. She's picked up her voicemails, Bob, she's alive. And I was just, it was then, really.
As it turned out, members of Rupert Murdoch's corporation had been hacking into Millie's phone, trying to be the first to reveal details of this national news story.
Right, I think this is the watershed moment when finally the public start to see and feel, above all, just how low and how disgusting this particular newspaper's methods were.
This was a murdered schoolgirl, and the thought that a very tight-knit circle of very senior politicians linked up very closely, intimately, with the police and with the media mogul, Rupert Murdoch.
For 30 years, as British prime ministers came and most certainly went, a constant character in their worlds was Rupert Murdoch, the billionaire media mogul whose press...
For years, celebrities and individuals like Millie had the voicemails they thought were hidden and private, accessed by Rupert Murdoch's corporation, at the expense of people like Millie's parents. And it took nearly a decade to expose the misuse of this highly personal data. Do you think privacy is dead?
I mean, it's certainly dying. Whether or not for privacy I mean, privacy is going to remain dead unless there's a really fundamental shift in the dynamics by which that's decided. By which I mean the only real effective response is to monitor and to change the behavior, the tendencies of the intelligence industry and law enforcement and all that, and even companies. And that's very, very unlikely.
I don't know exactly who the us is, but I'm very critical of us. I think that this is an area in which we have allowed ourselves to be smitten. We want this technology to grow and grow, and we don't want anything to rain on our parade. And we have woken up to the privacy concerns, in my view, at least 4 years too late.
I mean, is privacy dead?
Yeah, without question. Without question, yeah, it's dead.
It's safe to work under the assumption that nothing's private. You know, anything that's been digitized is not private. And that is terrifying.
When this becomes the size of a blood cell, then I can just send them into my brain and my body through the bloodstream. This will become quite ubiquitous, and it really will be part of who we are. And people say, well, okay, that's going to be a real threshold to move beyond, but I don't think so. It's a very smooth continuum from, you know, when I was a student and had to take my bicycle to get to the computer, to having it in my pocket, to having it in my body. It's a convenient place to put it. I won't lose it that way.
But they say if you put a frog in a pot of water and slowly turn up the heat, the frog will just die because it doesn't realize it's boiling. And I think that, like anything else, I think we're opting in a centimeter at a time. And, you know, pretty soon you're pretty far down the road. You look behind you and you sort of wonder how you got where you were. I think that's true.
It's just completely out of control. I mean, it's just, sky's the limit, you know? They know everything about us now.
It takes someone, it takes someone who's in charge of laws having what is being done to American citizens done to their email account, done to their Facebook profile.
They're going to pay attention to it.
All of these powerful institutions, they're not subject to the same invasions of privacy as the rest of us are.
Eric Schmidt, the CEO of Google, once said,
if you have something that you don't want anyone to know, maybe you shouldn't be doing it in the first place. Then he got very angry when CNET, which is owned by CBS, published a picture of his house. Well, when you ask Google about do not track, they claim we have to understand how to define that before we can implement any technology. Do not track is pretty simple. It means we don't want to be tracked. The only reason Google doesn't understand it is because Google doesn't want to implement it.
Unless someone comes and makes it no longer practical for them to engage in that kind of activity, pressure is put upon CEOs of the companies they're going to engage in it.
Dawn. We're going by the Facebook campus right now. Really have no idea what to expect. We've not had breakfast. Zuckerberg. He'll know that I checked in here too, so that's good. He knows that I'm right next to his house. Let's see, we have here's the exact quote from Mark. So, having two identities for yourself is an example of a lack of integrity. Lack of integrity. They just did a knock up on his door, so it seems very likely that we might get a Mark Zuckerberg sighting today. I mean, you might not be wrong, Vince. He might actually have a tunnel. There's some definite motion in the yard. Is there a dog? There we go. That's it. He's walking down. Mr. Zuckerberg? Hey, I'm working on a documentary. Got a little blog here, but wondering if I could just ask you a couple questions.
No, sorry.
Really?
I can't work.
Can I ask, do you still think privacy is dead? What are your real thoughts on privacy?
Are you guys recording?
We are.
Can you please not?
I can stop, yeah. All right. Mark Zuckerberg had asked me to please not record him, so we shut off the main camera. But since Mark doesn't seem to mind storing our data after we think it's been deleted, this only seemed fair.
Can you please not?
I can stop, yeah. All right. Can I come by your front desk, though, and ask about setting up an interview?
Yeah, I mean, we have a department where you can talk to people about that.
Yeah, I know. I've tried going through it a few times, and I never hear back. There's a major difference here. Mark loosens up after he thinks we've stopped recording. And you see that? That right there. That's a smile. Mark Zuckerberg smiled at me. And you know why? Because he thought I had stopped recording, and he was relieved. Imagine what a relief it would be if all of these companies and the government stopped recording everything we do, if we could just make a simple request to them, something that Mark Zuckerberg knows how to ask for. Can you please not? Can you please not record us, monitor us, and share our information unless we ask first? We need terms and conditions that are reasonable. And we need privacy policies that promote the most basic principles of our democracy, rather than taking them away. Or, as a young senator once said, back before he became president,
we need to find a way forward to make sure that we can stop terrorists while protecting privacy and liberty of innocent Americans. We have to find a way to give the president the power he needs to protect us while making sure that he doesn't abuse that power.
And that simple principle that there's somebody watching the watcher, whether that's on an issue of freedom of the press or it's an issue of warrantless wiretaps. That simple principle is one that we can't give up, and we don't have to give up.
Well, Mr. President, we are watching. And I guess we have to ask ourselves one simple question. Do we agree?
Tie rise to the occasion. A million tiny flashlights, I gotta turn it off. Cold feet and a tie rise to the occasion. A million tiny flashlights, I gotta turn it off. For a while I'll keep my place, but tonight
Washington is caught in its very own episode of Spy versus Spy. The tactics once employed by top intelligence gathering teams at the CIA, sifting through IP addresses, emails, and fake drop boxes, have now been turned against the intelligence community's top official.
The FBI uncovered evidence of an affair between Petraeus and his biographer Paula Broadwell.
That's right. Petraeus had an affair with the author of his fawning biography, All In.
These did not implicate criminal activity. These did not implicate national security. These were not a threat to David Petraeus, the person, or to General Petraeus, the director of the Central Intelligence Agency. Those are not my words. Those are the FBI's words.
Instead of actually sending those emails, in many cases, they wrote them as drafts in a Gmail account they both had access to, and that way they could both log on and check the draft folder, never having to actually hit send.
Very embarrassing for the Obama administration and for its National Security Command.
It's troubling because there are laws that the FBI has to follow, and he has the right to be protected from an unwarranted, unjustified investigation by the FBI or anyone.
People don't really know how they're being monitored, and they think, well, hey, if it's working, if we keep stopping another 9/11, then it's quote, worth it.